everyone, it is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. And so a few weeks ago I did an out-of-state student advice video. So today we are going to be doing an international student advice video. So I have the help of some of my friends who are international students to UC Berkeley, and they're going to answer some questions. Definitely, if you have any other questions, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more content, because I post every Wednesday and Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So without further ado, let's get started.
Hey Rachel, feels great to be back. I'm Guillermo. I'm a rising senior majoring in business, and I'm from Barcelona, Spain.
Hello everyone, my name is Henry Ko, and I'm a rising sophomore here at Berkeley, and my major is intended computer science, and I'm from Seoul, South Korea.
Hi, I'm Sparsh Jain. I'm a recent graduate from the class of 2020 at UC Berkeley, where I majored in business administration and operations research and management science. I consider Chennai, India to be my hometown, but I also consider Dubai to be a part of my home, as I spent two halves of my life in Dubai and in India.
Hi, my name is Derek Chow. I graduated Berkeley December 2019, majoring in business administration, and my hometown is Taipei, Taiwan. And if you're watching this on Rachel's YouTube channel, Rachel also did my podcast called Chow Down Chow. It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, it's on YouTube, so be sure to check that out as well.
Why did you choose to go to college in the United States? Did you apply to any colleges in your home country or other international schools?
I had always wanted to live the American college experience, all that good stuff you see in the movies. And as soon as I got the opportunity, I didn't even think it twice. It's just so different to what we're used to in Europe. And I didn't even apply to any other college. When it comes to the East Coast, where there's really good universities too, it was just a no-brainer for me being from Spain. I wouldn't even survive, I think, on the East Coast.
So I applied to colleges only in the United States, and I knew that I wanted to go to college in the United States, throughout my high school years, because I wanted to study a wide variety of subjects. I was interested in a lot of things, from marine science, physics, chemistry, biology. I really didn't know, I couldn't choose. But here in Korea, a system for 99% of the students, you have to choose a set major before you go to college. So in your application, you write it, what kind of major you want, and you have to study that major. Unless you transfer out, but things get complicated. And in many American schools, like Berkeley, you can go in as undeclared, and then you can kind of explore the options. And that's what I wanted to do exactly with my education.
I chose to go to college in the US for a very simple reason: flexibility. Personally, coming out of high school, I did not have too much of an idea of what I wanted to study and the opportunities that I could get, and the US seemed like the most flexible option in terms of discovering what you want to study and the type of majors and the type of people you meet as well.
So I chose to go to college in the US because I thought it represented a better opportunity than going to a college in my home country. I wanted to gain sort of that bigger perspective and really go out there and challenge myself, put myself in a new environment beyond what I've always known, which is living in a sort of an enclosed environment in Taipei, Taiwan. I knew I wanted to study business, and I know the best place to get a business education and subsequently find a good job was in the US. I applied to a couple colleges here in Asia, such as the University of Hong Kong, but I didn't go through with the application process at any of the colleges in my hometown, and I focused on the colleges in the US.
Is going to college in the United States typical for people from your area?
I would say generally in my country, South Korea, no, that is not typical. But I went to an international school in Korea, in a small island. In my school, since it was an international school, many of my friends, probably almost all of my friends, were interested in colleges that were outside of Korea. And many of my friends went to the United States, some went to UK. But yeah, people around me were interested in international schools. But as a country, no.
I wouldn't say it's something typical. Studying in the US is really expensive, and the education in Europe is actually pretty good. The thing I could say is that most of the people I know studying in the US and being originally from Spain, which I could probably count on the fingers of one hand, they either study in Ivy Leagues or Berkeley or Stanford, so these sort of super high-ranked universities, or they just have sports field rights so they don't have to pay anything. but as I said before, like it's something very uncommon.
Going to college in the US isn't really typical from at least my background. I went to a local high school with a class of about 1,200 people, and I would say about maybe 30 or 40 of those eventually went to college in the US. So it's not really that typical. So that also meant, the process of applying, there's a lot of stuff that you got to navigate on your own. Including like we didn't even have like English report cards back in our school. So in order to send out my grades to colleges in the U.S., I had to get it translated and had to get it authenticated by like the U.S. Embassy and then send it over to the United States. The process, a lot of it you had to navigate on your own because there aren't those readily available resources.
Dubai is where I finished my high school, is relatively common for international schools. There are a decent amount of students who choose to go just to study internationally in general. That includes countries like Australia, Canada, the US, UK, parts of Europe as well, and back to their own home countries as well. And that can be a whole range of other countries too. But US is one of the more popular choices, definitely.
What was the process like applying to schools internationally?
It is a pretty tough process, to be fair. There's so much to do, and there's way too much bureaucracy and procedures that you have to follow step by step. Also, it's kind of hard on the side of the grades, because if you haven't studied in an international school or somewhere where the grading scheme is the same as the one in the US, they have to figure out what your grades mean to them and all of those things. So I wouldn't say it's something easy.
Besides that, taking tests like the SATs, writing essays, it just takes some time figuring out, but I don't think it's that hard of a process. A lot of things aren't readily available to you, including, maybe the teachers at your school and the counselors at your school don't really understand the college system abroad and what is entailed in the application process. So you're basically on your own. If you just put a lot of time into it, it shouldn't be that hard to figure it out. It's not really that difficult of a process. So I didn't think that was that big of an obstacle to me. And of course, I also had the option of going to people for help, whether that's people that I knew that applied to colleges in the US that can give me insight on the application process, or maybe outside consultants that had a lot of experience in the area, went to them. So there are a lot of resources, although not in my school, but around me, surrounding me, that I can go to for help.
It's just slightly, actually considerably harder in many cases for international students to get accepted to schools in the US. And so it just requires a lot more effort and careful work on our part as international students to get into a school in the US.
Like I said, I went to an international school that followed the American curriculum, the American AP curriculum. So in a sense, like we started semesters in the fall, like our first semester was always in the fall. So in that sense, the timeline wasn't really an issue for me because I just followed like how like every other American student applied to colleges, where they start writing the Common App, the UCs, and so. But there was one more. Oh yeah, there was one more. Because I'm an international student, I had to take some English proficiency test, and it's like IBT, TOEFL, like some international school kids will notice.
Did you visit the United States, Berkeley, other colleges before deciding which college to attend?
I never visited any of the colleges. I never went on a college tour, anything like that. And I think I did a fairly poor job at understanding the colleges that I was applying to. I knew I wanted to study business, so I literally, went on U.S. News, I pulled up a rankings and just sort of went down the list. What's the best school for business I'm applying to? What's the second best school? I'm applying to the top 10 schools, and we'll see what is the best one I got into, and that turned out to be Berkeley. Like when I first got to Berkeley, I didn't even know you had to apply to get into the Haas School of Business. I had no idea. So, I did a fairly poor job in understanding the schools, and it probably would have served me well to visit the colleges, but I just never did.
No, I unfortunately could not. I just didn't know what I was doing and where I was going, so I didn't really have the time to consider other colleges and see where I was going and trying to understand a good fit. I can see how that is daunting for students, and it was definitely a daunting experience for me. But just talking to people from different colleges once you get in, and reaching out to them, trying to understand the best fit, etc., is really helpful and can give you a good idea. But it is definitely a very nerve-wracking experience to go almost across the world and figure out where you're studying and what it's like. So it's definitely a risk, but no, I didn't get a chance to visit.
No, I didn't visit Berkeley. Basically, I spoke with one of my professors who actually did her PhD there, and I also connected with another student who had done the same. And basically, I just asked for some tips and advice, but no, I didn't visit campus. I think actually right now with the internet, you pretty much have everything, and on YouTube, there's so many videos where you can make your own idea on how the university and how campus is.
So no, I didn't really get to visit many colleges that I was going to apply to. First of all, it was very far, and I was busy with like schoolwork too. So for the majority of my like college list, I didn't really know how like the campus looked like in actual like real life. I just looked at the pictures and I just looked at the the website, and that's that's kind of like how I applied. So I only knew more about like the academic structure or the curriculum than like how it actually looks like in real life.
How does the international student visa work? Was this an easy process to obtain?
Well, for me, back in 2016, it was a standard procedure where once you get into a college, they send you an I-20, after you confirm and you pay your deposit or whatever. You get your I-20 and then you go to the embassy, schedule an appointment, apply. It's a relatively straightforward process. I have understood over time that there are students who have faced difficulties in that process, but for me, it was a smooth process. But now we're living in 2020, which is a completely different time, and it is actually essentially not even possible to get a visa right now. So I completely understand the struggle for those who might be watching this video right now. But I do know that just applying to the US and just getting a visa here, be it a student visa or a regular visa or whatever it is, there's great difficulty and it is not an easy process. And even maintaining your visa can have a lot of struggles, even though you're just coming to study. These problems can be all the way from just getting an internship to being able to be participating in the internship to getting a full-time job, etc. Coming to the US is a great challenge and it's a huge risk for someone to take at this time. I wouldn't say I discourage it because I've had the best time and the best experience of my life, but knowing the current landscape and the current political landscape in the country, personally I would lean towards considering other options that are a little safer at this time, because I do believe that an undergraduate college experience can be very successful and can be very fruitful in other countries and other programs. And feel free to go to the US for a master's program or something later on if you can afford that and if that's a part of your plan. But at this time, the US is a very difficult place to enter and a very difficult place to even be successful in.
Like recently, the US government released something saying if you don't take in-person classes or in-person class, then you won't be able to get a visa. And I don't know really like what's going to happen with that. But that aside, like in normal times, it was an easy process to obtain because first you have to obtain the I-20. The I-20 is a form that is kind of like a pre-approval form for our entry. It's given to you by the school you got accepted to, and you carry that and you go to the embassy, the U.S. embassy, and you fill some forms for F1 visa. And in the interview, it was pretty simple. They just asked me, "Oh, yeah, you go to this school. Okay, what are you gonna study? Okay, what do your parents do? Okay," and that was it. While like some other people for other visas, they asked some really intense questions. Like the interviews were like 15, 20, 30 minutes long, but mine was just like 2 minutes long. So it was good. But I really hope that things are gonna get better with the F1 visa like status going on right now.
What steps should high school students take if they're interested in leaving the country for college?
What I would recommend for high school students would be, first of all, try to make a difference. At the end of the day, that's what will get you into these universities because everyone has a lot of potential and really good grades. Don't focus only on your high school and your grades. Try to do things outside of it. Try to find your purpose and work towards it, right? I think that's really important. Another really important thing, try to understand the essence of the universities you will apply and prove that during all your essays and during your whole application. They have to really understand and see that you're willing to go to this university and make an impact.
In terms of what steps should high school students take if they're interested in leaving their original country, I think first of all, the most important thing is you gotta do your research. I think for me, I did a lot of research, but there's still a lot that I didn't know when I first got to the US. So I think that's the most important thing. Really understand what the college environment in whatever country you want to go to is looking like, and specifically the colleges that you want to apply to. What do they look like? What do the student population look like? What extracurriculars? What is the job market looking like for graduates? All of that, all that research should be done before you decide the path you want to go on.
I think this is a good question because leaving the country takes a lot of commitment and money. So first of all, I think you should look at the tuition of each college that school you want to go to, and look at any potential scholarship opportunities and timelines for getting scholarships. And another thing is that try also look into third-party scholarships as well. So a friend of mine actually applied for a third-party scholarship from an organization in Korea, and then he got like a full ride from that organization, even though his school didn't give him any scholarships. So money is definitely an important factor. Try to go into college website and then see if that specific school has offers any student organizations related to your cultural background. That is honestly really comforting, just having an organization near you who really relates with your culture and that you share the same background with. Well, first, I guess the easiest way would be to reaching out to the international office of that school and asking how the student life is there. And oftentimes they offer like student mentors available for just talking to. And you can go to those people and try to ask them like how the life is there too. The internet and YouTube especially is a really great resource to get to know about like how actual campus life is there as an international student.
If you are in ninth grade or below, get started to build a profile. Try to understand what your interests are, because what you need ultimately to get into any college is a very good story. And we all have good stories. We just need to work hard on them, and we all have interests. We just need to make sure that we demonstrate leadership, we demonstrate passion. And there's essentially 3 words that can summarize what you essentially need to have in order to prepare or to be even interested in leaving the country for college. And that's passion, authenticity, and effort. Passion can be an overrated word and can be thrown around in a lot of different places, but all it means is you just have an intense level of interest towards something. It has to be authentic, and it's not something that you do just for a resume or just for a profile. It is genuinely something you're interested in, want to be involved in. Start to understand what you're curious about, and dive yourself completely deep into it. Essentially skydive into whatever ideas that you have or whatever interests you have, and push yourself there. And that's where the third component comes, is effort. Because once you demonstrate passion, authenticity, and effort, you can get into just about any school you want, because that's all that's required to be successful as a student and just as someone who's just living in the world.
What is the typical international student experience at Berkeley? Was it hard to adjust, make friends, fit in?
Well, for me, it was hard at first. Like I never took a class in all English, so it was hard for me to fit in academically. Of course, writing papers, reading, that was really, really difficult to me. So I had to reach out to professors, fellow students for help. And of course, socially, it was pretty awkward at first too. I had to fit into American culture, step outside of my comfort zone to really make friends in an environment, in a language that I didn't quite familiarize myself with first. So it was hard, but I think it's, eventually with time you adjust to your surroundings. You sort of encounter problems being an international student, such as how people view you, try to fit in socially and academically, but all of that just takes hard work to overcome. And I think there's a lot of resources available for you to go to overcome those challenges.
Even if you're not an international student, going to a new school, new environment would be hard. It's a new experience, and it's exciting, and it's nerve-wracking, and it's fun too. But for Berkeley, I think the pros of being in a big school really comes out as an international student, because sometimes if it's a small school, then you'll probably know all the international students, and let alone you'll probably know all the class members. But sometimes you want to see other cultures, you want to see other American cultures or some other international cultures, and Berkeley does a really good job of that. So I can go out of my Korean social circle to meet other friends and to meet other people. Was it hard to adjust? Other than just parts of adjusting to a new school, like as a non-international, like or international, other than that, I don't think it was especially hard for me to adjust because everyone was really so open about knowing, trying to know the culture of like other people. The Golden Bear orientation, which was like an orientation for Berkeley, that was fun too. We got grouped by the people living in the same dorm building. We just don't say bye bye to everyone like after the orientation. After the orientation is done, you can still get to meet them during laundry rooms, like in laundry rooms or going to classes, going to cafeterias. So yeah, it wasn't. I think the school did uh did a pretty good job like getting me into that. But more than that, it was really the people like students being open about other cultures. That was important.
What can be very difficult for an international student experience at Berkeley or in the US is specifically within the job world. If you are looking to be employed in the US, that is going to be a challenge, be it an internship, a full-time job, or even other opportunities. This country becomes more and more exclusive to just US nationals, and that is a struggle that we have to deal with. But if you really put your mind into it and work hard, and find your ways around it, and just make sure you're able to find an edge in whatever scenario you can, there are still possibilities available for you, and there is still a world of opportunities that you can get access to.
What is the hardest part about going to school internationally?
I would say adapting to the country, not to the school, but to the country. Like the US works way different than Spain and Europe, pretty much, I would say. Driving, there's different rules applied there, right? When you pay for something, then you have to think about the value added tax, which is already included in Europe. All those things that you just don't think about when you go, but then you realize that it's so different that you need some time to adapt to it. And that's the hardest thing, I would say.
Personally, for me, it was family and food. That's probably the most difficult part of going to school internationally. You're just so far away and you don't get the access. You're essentially on FaceTime calls once or twice a day with your parents, and feeling homesick can be a very common thing for students. And this is not something that you just experience in your first year of college. This is something that you can experience throughout your time across your 4 years or more.
Hardest part about going to a school international is definitely missing your family. Like Thanksgiving break, spring break, a lot of people that I know can just go back to their family, hang out. I have a younger brother at home, so it was really hard for me to miss out on the junior high school and the high school years of his life when I thought me and my brother could have really bonded. I missed out on that. So, of course, that's tough, missing your family, not being able to go home whenever you wanted to, not being able to just travel back home, can only spend like a couple months at home throughout the year. I think that's really tough.
English is definitely a second language. You can like feel that when you're meeting with other people and when you're taking classes too, because you gotta like follow up with the classes. But taking that, even like learning such materials even in your own native language, native tongue, would be kind of hard too. But now you have to learn it in English, so that's, I wouldn't say double the like difficulty, but that does add a little learning curve. And I would say like experiencing different cultures, because since like I grew up in Korea all my life, I wasn't really exposed to American culture, meme culture, for like say for example, or like slangs. Slangs was a different one because now I have to learn academic English, but now like there's all these slangs, and I had to like look up in the dictionary like what that meant. So I miss the food of my home, because when you grow up with like a certain kind of food or a certain kind of cuisine, then you miss that. And even if you eat that in a foreign country, it doesn't taste the same because it's just different. Like those like little really tiny things, I miss those. And of course, like being away from my family is one too, because there's no relatives in the United States of mine. So if I get sick or something happens, then what happens to me? Like I don't know. That there's like that kind of uncertainty is definitely like a worrying factor of mine.
And any final last words of advice?
There were times freshman year that I thought, why didn't I just go to a college, my house where I could just go home and just chill with my family? I have to go through all this crap. I have to read 80 pages of a reading that I have no interest in, and in a language that I haven't even taken a full class of yet. But, just know that this is all a part of the journey. If you want to accomplish something, there are going to be obstacles. Adjust your mindset, run through them, know that the end results are going to be that much sweeter if you do.
I already told you, passion, authenticity, effort. That's probably the three most important things you need. And the last one is going to be resilience and persistence. The world becomes an increasingly difficult place to deal with as international students specifically. And I urge you all to stay calm, to stay persistent, and to stay resilient with whatever happens and whatever comes your way. And just as long as you maintain passion, authenticity, and effort, you're going to be fine and you're going to be successful.
If you are interested in an international opportunity, like specifically in the US too, or anywhere, I really encourage that you look into like the specific options of going, because I wish you don't get deterred or discouraged by the current circumstances. Because take like one example, one reason why a lot of the students are discouraged from it is the tuition, the high cost of living, the high cost of tuition. Of course, not all schools offer scholarships available for you. If you're willing to seek many options, or even be willing to kind of like reduce the ranking of the school that you're interested in, for the sake of getting an international education, I think there's definitely it's an option worth considering. But yes, I think it's an amazing opportunity, and I'm honestly privileged to have such an opportunity in my hands right now, even if it's in the like terms of like online education at the moment. Best wishes to all the international students or potential international students out there right now. And thank you. Yes, I think that is it for me. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.